We're into the semi-finals of the Freestyle chess tournament. Who's playing with black? It's the one and only Magnus Carlsen, world number 1, and his opponent, the German youngster Vincent Keimer. So what do we see to start with? G4, supported by the queen there. You could copy the pawn structure, but Magnus brings out the pony here. Vincent's so impressed, he copies on the other side, and Magnus now plays this pawn structure. Is it good? Is it bad? No clue. We're all trying to figure out this freestyle chess game. Now we get the explosive c4 supported by this rook, and Magnus goes for a completely different approach. He castles the king. How weird does that look when you haven't moved any of these pieces? But it's legal as long as the king and rook end up on the same squares they usually would. And now d4 for the score is played, attacking in the center, and Magnus ignores it, develops this one, allows Vincent to take the space, and just goes d6, playing this structure here. He's got less space, but okay, he wants to maneuver, make the game imbalanced, and after this check, the king looks toast. It can't step away, but of course you can block. You're still alive. f3 starts this big light squared pawn chain. a6 is now played. e4 sets up this Himalaya pawn structure, and after knight f4, what an outpost. We get takes on d7 with check, rook recaptures, and you can play some developing move here, or pawn c5 looks so natural, but Vincent tries to set it up in a more clever way by going first king c2, headed for the b1 square, and he's saying, okay, if you take the pawn, then I'm going to get out the way here, hit your knight, and if you return, bang, you're in big trouble. That pawn is pinned. Now technically black can go knight h3 here, get the queen running around, should be a drawn position, but okay, Magnus simply didn't touch the pawn. He doesn't want to take the bait or take a drawing line. He instead goes bishop a7, keeping the tension alive, and now bishop d2 played, not the immediate bishop f2, or you run into knight h3. So king b8 is played to protect that bishop. Now you really do have problems down that long diagonal. Bishop e3 therefore covers the way, supported by the queen. Now knight h3, queen g2, this one drops back. Don't tell me we're going to see a repeat. No, bang, Magnus pushes on with Harry the h pawn here, trying to rip open lines, and if you take or do with the knight and get those ones off, the point is that soon you can be getting this g5 or f5 rather move in. Sometimes the queen comes to the h file, recoups the pawn like that, etc, etc. An ugly structure. So instead rook fd1 was played, the pawn not touched. Now we see the captures on g4, pawn takes back here, and Magnus now completely forgets which way his pieces are supposed to move. Remaneuvering, we get this pawn to c5 played, and it's a great move because it takes the space, highlights the cramped nature of Magnus's position. He captures there. You could of course move the rook or something, but c6 was on the way. So this one the best move. Now bishop recaptures, and g6 looks for the kingside counterplay. Do you say kingside? I suppose you do. Bit weird, right, when the pieces all started on crazy squares. Normally that's the kingside. Now we see takes with check. This knight recaptures, always play king b1, and after queen h7, eyeballing this weakened pawn here, now Vincent spawns a seahorse, hits the rook, and he's slightly in the driver's seat. You know, Magnus holding on here, but he's really turning the pressure. Knight e2 now played. We see an exchange. Queen takes back, knight b5, and may we, something wicked this way comes. Queen c4 is played, but Magnus's knight, regardless, is headed for the mighty d4 outpost here. Now first, we see the pressure building up here. So this rook slides over, covers the monarch. a4 puts the question, and bang, Magnus lands this one here. An absolute stallion transformed from the donkey it was. g5's now played, and it's a really cool, quirky idea. You know, if you push on, or let's say you capture, because this is even better, there's this amazing exchange sacrifice, pawn takes back, and you can push this one here, and you got the two connected runners, let's say rook b6, and there's some very nice lines. You know, here's one sample, takes, knight takes with check, opening up the battery. Not saying that this would occur, of course, but these are the attacking ideas. So let's run back. G5 was played, no captures. Magnus brings this rook over to a new file. Now we see takes on f6, rook takes back, and as we approach move 30 here, the file challenged rook b6. This is move 30 on the dot, G5 from Magnus. We can really see the time starting to tick down. Vincent's got 4 minutes, Magnus about 8. King a2's played. Both players doing a bit of king safety. The rook's now doubled on the f file. Tolkien would be proud. This g4 move on the board, clamping, but it is not precise. Magnus would have been better to go rook g8, lift to g7, cover this invasion square, because Vincent now could play this move. It's really strong, because if captures is played here, fine, well, you can kick this one away, say it goes somewhere like this, now you take here. I'm gonna, whoops, take this one here, and you can start to double. Huge pressure here. Never explored this line. What if you hit the rook? Okay, still it says takes on c7, queen takes, you can take here, knight takes, okay. Here's the attacking idea, very beautiful, fine. We can completely understand why Vincent didn't see this right, very low on time. So instead after g4, he plays queen c3, just nudging back onto some dark squares, eyeing this pawn potentially, but now knight f3 from Magnus. And he covers the e5 square as well as blocking the f file. Now we see rook g2 hitting the pawn, and rook g8, imperative move to cover that one. Yes, you can take, win a knight, but black's doing better there. So rook ff2 play, just holding the fort. Magnus goes rook d6, queen e3, eyeballing the king, so it steps off the dangerous diagonal. Now this knight hits the amazing outpost, and here's the unbelievable thing. Magnus, such a good blitz player, can go king b8, rook d7, hold things steady, something like that. But he absolutely blunders completely at this point. Terrible move. Should be known though that just at this moment an absolute racket kicked off in the next room. Some of the top players were practicing their pony manoeuvring. Very noisy, very distracting, lots of neighing and giddy up and that sort of thing. Magnus plays pawn to c6, completely losing move, because now you can slide with queen a3, hit the unprotected rook, and where does it actually go? You know, you can't step here, you get taken. Where are you going here? Say you go to d7, well now there's this cool move, knight f8, supported by the queen from afar. You go to Forktown, population Magnus, that's the end of the game. So after this one, Magnus desperately tries the exchange sack, pawn recaptures, and now he blitzes out rook c8, very low on time, but it's just a huge blunder, second blunder, because simply you can take this pawn and the knight's hanging, this one's running, the rooks are invading. I mean, it's hopelessly game over, really nothing else to say. So after this move of rook c8, Magnus didn't even wait for Vincent's response, he just resigned the game on the spot. Vincent takes game one of the semi-finals. Sure, Magnus can try and bounce back tomorrow, but what an exciting start. Hope you enjoyed this one, and don't forget to have a look at the video on screen for another epic game of chess. Cheers.